What was the reason and what was the basis of your support for censure?
Like, we have a clear strategy on how to defeat Donald Trump.
What's that? Huh? Silence? Is it silence? Because that's what it sounds like. Is silence. That's the strategy that I'm getting. Hey, shout out to all of our subscribers and members here on the channel. My name is Reese Waters, and this is Who Raised Y'all, where we highlight those unique individuals going above and beyond to make our society worse.
You decided to vote support for this censure. Why?
I did. Al Green's a friend. I respect Al Green. Our caucus cannot be a distraction. I wish you guys were asking me about 70,000 VA workers getting laid off.
You know, the kinds of people you'll see asking to speak to the manager at the pearly gates.
During the speech, the Democratic leaders did not want their members to engage on things what Al Green was doing. They did not want people to hold up signs. That was the message that came from Hakeem Jeffries himself.
All right. Y'all know why we're here.
Its adoption of House Resolution 189, the House has resolved that Representative Al Green be censured, that Representative Al Green forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker. The House had come to order. The House had come to order. What's that?
You want to let him keep doing this, or tell me clear?
The House had come to order. Clear the well, please. Clear the well. The House has to continue its business.
And if you want to declare a recess, you can do that too. And the mic's on.
Just say the House is in recess. Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the House will stand in recess, subject to the call of the chair.
That was the House voting to formally censure Congressman Al Green of Texas for his outburst during Trump's address this week.
Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant at Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
Now, for the record, I stand with Congressman Al Green, not only his actions, but also his motivations, which he made abundantly clear that night.
So what were you shouting to the president?
The president said he had a mandate. And I was making it clear to the president that he has no mandate to cut Medicaid. I have people who are very fearful. These are poor people, and they have only Medicaid in their lives when it comes to their health care. And I want him to know that his budget calls for deep cuts in Medicaid. He needs to save Medicaid, protect it. We need to raise the cap on Social Security. There's a possibility that it's going to be hurt, and we've got to protect Medicare. These are the safety net programs that people in my congressional district depend on. And this president seems to care less about them and more about the number of people that he can remove from the various programs that have been so helpful to so many people.
Is yelling during his speech the best way to get that across?
It is the best way to get it across to a person who uses his incivility, against our civility. He is a person who has consistently been used incivility against civility.
Do you think it was no mandate? Is that what you said?
Well, look, I'm willing to suffer whatever punishment is available to me. I didn't say to anyone, don't punish me. I've said I'll accept the punishment, but it's worth it to let people know that there are some of us who are going to stand up against this president's desire to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security.
So were you saying you have no mandate? Is that what you just said?
That's what he has no mandate to cut Medicaid. None.
Is the only punishment that you were kicked out, sir? Is there something?
I don't know. Whatever the punishment is, I'm not fighting the punishment. This is about the people who are being punished by virtue of losing their health care. This is the richest country in the world, and we have people who don't have good health care. We've got to do better. And now we're about to cut Medicaid, which is for poor people. Health care has become wealth care for many people, and we can't afford to let that happen.
Is that the only thing that you're protesting?
No, I have other things I'm protesting. And I'm also working on my articles of impeachment. This president is unfit. He should not hold the office. 34 felony convictions, 2 times impeached.
Sir, tell me.
Well, that is a pretty dramatic development there, Wolf. We had expected the House to actually go into have another vote in the aftermath of this one. So we'll see what the Speaker ultimately tries to do with this protest that is now breaking out on the House floor of some members of the House Democratic Caucus singing "We Shall Overcome" in the aftermath of this. But this is clearly divided some elements of the Democratic Party. That we saw 10 Democrats voting with Republicans to ultimately approve this measure. 224 to 198 was the vote to censure Al Green, which essentially is a public admonition. It's a way to say that the House disapproves of an action of a specific member. It really doesn't go beyond that. It used to be very rare that the House would take such an action, really only in the most egregious of offenses. But in recent years, it's becoming used much more commonly. And in the aftermath of what Al Green did on the House floor, Republicans made clear that they wanted to punish Al Green for his extended outbursts and ultimate removal from the House floor during Donald Trump's address to Congress. But we'll see if the Speaker decides to do anything else to these Democrats who are now speaking out, or chanting, it seems, on the House floor, if they're ultimately removed, or if the Speaker decides to take any action on them as well. Guys.
Very interesting.
I'm going to take a closer look at those 10 Democrats
Me
who
too.
voted
I was just thinking that.
To censure their fellow Democrat, Al Green.
Yes, why don't we take a closer look at those 10 Democrats who voted to censure Al Green? We got Jared Moskowitz, Jim Hines, Jim Costa, Laura Gillen. We got Marie Glosenkamp Perez, Amy Barra, Tom Suozzi, Mary Captor, Chrissy Houlihan, and Ed Case. Well, I, for one, hope that you are in fact proud of yourselves for voting to admonish a member of your own party for things the other party was openly willing to engage in the last time. Yes, we still have that footage.
Well, I thought it was pretty impressive that the president would enter the people's house and try to lie to the American people about the economy, the border, and even ignore the fact that he allowed the Chinese spy balloon to spy on America. But when he continued the lie, accusing Republicans of preparing to cut Social Security and Medicare, we couldn't take it. So I, along with my colleagues, were calling him out. I think I was just the loudest one because I stood up and screamed liar. And the reason why I did that, Sean, is because they have used my image and my name as leading the effort in that, when we have not had one single meeting in the GOP conference talking about cutting Social Security and Medicare. Joe Biden is a liar. I represent the American people, and I was honored to be able to call him the liar that he is in the people's house and not allow him to get away with it.
And by the way, if you're just wondering exactly what the justifications might be, I don't mind being one of the 10 Democrats who said no. There's a deeper principle at stake here, which is reverence for this institution. Himes said after the vote, adding that lawmakers need to act with the decorum and with the civility that says to the world that we are a serious country. I have no love for Donald Trump, but I do have reverence for the office of the president. Now, here's a quick question to Mr. Himes. So you want America to be seen as a serious country by virtue of Donald Trump's addresses going unchecked. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is going to be the one showing up and representing America abroad.
TPS for the Ukrainians who live here in the U.S.
What about it?
Are you considering revoking the TPS status for the more than 200,000 Ukrainians who live here in the U.S.?
What are you saying?
The Ukrainians that are here in the U.S., they're under a TPS status.
On GPS?
TPS, temporary.
Oh, I thought you said GPS.
You want us to be taken seriously as a country while he's still the one representing us for the next 4 years, just so I'm clear. And you mentioned that at least he has, you need to have respect for the office of the president. Now, one thing we understand is the GOP definitely does not have respect for the office of Congress because they have stripped you all of your constitutional powers. How about the respect that they have for the courts? We know he has no respect for the courts whatsoever, huh? I'm not even talking about the felonies. I'm not even talking about the felonies and the litany of lawsuits. No, since he's been here, he's been openly defiant of courts and appealed that as president, he doesn't have to obey the courts, something that J.D. Vance tried to back him up on. So we know he doesn't respect Congress. We know he doesn't respect the courts. Does he respect the office of the president? Does he really take any consideration to precedent? Does he look to consistently expand his powers beyond the very intentional limits that were set for the office in the first place? Is he conscious of the office when he is addressing common citizens on his True Social account? I'm trying to find a single instance where he shows any respect for the office of the president.
The first month of our presidency, it's our presidency, is the most successful in the history of our nation. By many. And what makes it even more impressive is that, do you know who number 2 is? George Washington. How about that?
But that's what you want to do by censoring one of your own for engaging in the same behavior that they did to disrespect your last president. Is that what I mean, it sounds bad in print. Thank goodness they would never show up and actually give voice to this in person.
Joining us now with more is Democratic Congressman Ami Bera from California. He actually voted in support of the censure. And Congressman, it is a pleasure to see you. I thank you for your time. You decided to vote support for this censure. Why?
I did. Al Green's a friend. I respect Al Green. Our caucus cannot be a distraction. I wish you guys were asking me about 70,000 VA workers getting laid off. I wish you guys were asking me about closing the Department of Education. That's what we should be talking about. We've got to keep the focus not on our caucus, but on what Donald Trump is actually doing.
What was the reason and what was the basis of your support for censure?
Like, we have a clear strategy on how to defeat Donald Trump.
What's that? Huh? Silence? Is it silence? Because that's what it sounds like. Is silence. That's the strategy that I'm getting from everybody other than Jasmine Crockett and AOC. I'm getting silence. So I'm trying to. You just want him to punch himself out? We just gonna let him do whatever he want to do. Then when he get tired, like, what are you doing?
That is to make sure the American public understands what Donald Trump is doing, how it is going to hurt their lives, how it is going to be inflationary, how it is not helping them. When we act as individuals, that draws attention away. That is exactly what Donald Trump wanted to do. Let's act as a team. Let's win the elections in 2026. Let's make sure the American public knows the actions that he's taking and how it's hurting American families.
What is your strategy to make sure America knows the actions that he's taking and how it's hurting American families? I need to know, because even if I go by your justification for it, okay, what we have here is something that drew a whole hell of a lot of attention, number one. And number two, you tell me the, I don't know, 24-hour window, 48-hour window, 96-hour window, 12-hour window, where Donald Trump ain't gonna go ham and break something else in the government that's gonna take over the front headlines. I know, I cover it. I can't take no days off.
So you said that you're a friend of Representative Green. Have you talked to him? Have you spoken with him? Have you gotten an idea from him as to why he thinks that what he did was actually the correct action?
I mean, I've not been able to speak to him since he took the action.
It's going to be a while. It's going to be a while after that vote, player. I can tell you that right now.
Again, I agree with drawing attention to the fact that Republicans want to dismantle Medicaid, take billions of dollars out of Medicaid to give tax cuts to the rich, to give tax cuts to corporations. But there's a better way to do this. There's a better way to draw attention to that. And that's not drawing attention to ourselves. That's making sure the public is focused on Donald Trump and his actions.
You know, Congressman, I keep thinking, is there, do you think, a need to differentiate the conversations and the decorum that should exist at the well of the House of Representatives?
That's not the question. That is not the question. The question is, you said it was a better way. I ain't seen you poke your head out of your office since inauguration. What's the better way? I need you writing letters. What is the better way?
Because I'm just wondering, I mean, is it just that everything goes? And I think that by your vote today, maybe there should be some respect for decorum going forward, so that what happens this week in the Serbian parliament or what happens in other countries around the world is not something that, well, it progressed into that.
Decorum always matters. Civility always matters. How we speak to one another always matters. I don't appreciate what Marjorie Taylor Greene does, how she yells out at times. If I had been in Congress when Joe Wilson yelled, "You lied to President Obama," I would have voted to censure him as well. The American public needs to see their highest elected officials act in a civilized manner. And we're going to disagree on policy. We're going to debate vigorously, and we've got to win at the election.
Historically, you were talking about it used to be extraordinarily rare, not so much in the last recent years, but how rare is it for a member of the person being censured's own party to vote with the other side like this?
You know, that has happened sometimes in recent history, but typically these things have gone down, at least in the last couple of years, have gone down mostly along party lines. Sometimes people may break ranks, especially ones in difficult districts. One person who did vote to censure Al Green right now is Marcy Kaptur. She's a veteran Ohio Democrat, someone who's actually in a swing district. So that tells you something there. Another one, Jared Moskowitz, a more moderate member of the House Democratic Caucus. He voted to censure Al Green. Another one, Jim Himes of Connecticut, perhaps not as progressive as some of the members who were actually engaging in some of that protest that was happening here. But the larger issue here, though, is the debate within the Democratic Party over how exactly to express themselves as the opposition to Donald Trump at this key moment. In that, during the speech, the Democratic leaders did not want their members to engage on things what Al Green was doing. They did not want people to hold up signs. That was the message that came from Hakeem Jeffries himself to his Democrats, and progressives in particular did not listen to that advice. They wanted to show that they were fighting for Donald Trump, and they wanted the public to know that as well. And clearly Al Green didn't take that advice also. We'll see what he ultimately says when he comes out of this censure vote. But before this vote, Pamela and Wolf, he said, "I'm prepared to suffer the consequences of his actions." So he has really no regrets for what he did, and he said he would do it again.
Now, y'all have to help me with something. So if you are a centrist, right? If you are a centrist, That means that you are caught somewhere in between the old school left and right. Will you tell me where what is going on now falls in that continuum? I need to know the people that are kind of sort of lukewarm on a governmental takeover, on an oligarchy. I didn't look like who, you're just dipping your toe in the water on oligarchy and Elon Musk and his sycophants having access to all the private information. Just, I'm kind of okay with that. Like, I'm trying to, like, you're concerned about your constituents are either completely through with anything remotely blue if they ride with what's going on right now, or they're ready to hear an opposition. I'm not one of your constituents. I'm just a general liberal mind who has been waiting for weeks for somebody outside of Texas and New York to say something. And just in case we're not clear on the extent to which the Democratic caucus did not have his back, quote, people are pissed, one Democratic lawmaker said, speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss internal party dynamics. The lawmaker added that Green's antics were viewed as selfish after party leaders made clear they wanted their members to act somberly during the address. A lot of people are like, why aren't we on the same team, that member said. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries told reporters it was a vote that his caucus took without any official recommendation from the Democratic whip, and people made a decision based on what they view to be the right thing to do connected to their district, the top House Democrat told reporters after the vote. Now, let's just talk about what I just read. One Democrat who spoke on condition of anonymity said that Al Green was selfish. So you wanted it out there that the Democrats, some Democrats thought Al Green was selfish, but you won't put your name on it because you don't want the blowback. And are going to call him selfish. Is that what just happened? I'm pretty sure that's what just happened. I'm pretty sure that's what just happened. And while we're talking about selfishness, how about the idea that we are all supposed to just blindly trust the party while we see the deconstruction of USAID, Medicare, Medicaid, the Department of Education. We are seeing the dismantling of all DEI programs. We're just supposed to blindly trust the Democrats, having heard nothing about what the plan is. And we just supposed to hold it. Yeah, selfishness is right. Selfish is right. That's a great word.
Whether you're holding up those placards, whether you're yelling at him as the congressman did and being unwilling to keep quiet when he was called on it. If you're a Republican, that was arguably, and I've been doing this now for decades, if you're a Republican, that was manna from heaven. That was exactly what you wanted to hear, and you're shocked that he was saying it so bluntly. If you're a Democrat, it was sheer hell, because it tells you that this is going to continue. And if you're an independent, you agree with the policies, but you don't agree with the tone. Is because not only is Trump moving forward, he's putting his foot on the gas and accelerating. And while that is awesome for the people who voted for him, the 50% who voted for him, for those who did not, I know how frightened they are. I hear it. And it's a fear that's tinged with frustration because they hear nothing from the Democratic Party that gives them any pause. I want to emphasize those paddles holding up in silence about cutting Social Security, cutting Medicaid, calling Trump a liar, attacking Elon Musk. That is not governing. That is performance art. I was angry at Republicans when they interrupted Joe Biden's speech over the last 4 years, and I'm angry at Democrats for doing exactly the same thing. Please show some decorum, show some civility on both sides. The Democrats will blame Trump, the Republicans will blame the Democrats. Both of them, for the sake of the country, need to lower that decibel level, lower the heat, and work to get what they want done, because elections do have consequences, but do it in a way that makes us proud.
Now, there was a whole lot to respond to there. One thing I want to say, why is it when the Democrats do something, it's always lower the heat? I don't ever see lower the heat about any of the attacks that come from Donald Trump or the MAGA movement. And they stay hot. I don't ever hear lower the heat. And there's been steady incoming from your own mouth. There's been steady incoming. I don't never hear lower the heat. It's always when Democrats poke up and do, anything, it's all of a sudden lower the heat. Let's also then address the fact that you're talking about how it's performance art and it's not governing. What exactly have the GOP, what have they done? What governing have they done? Have they upheld their oaths to office when they agreed to represent their districts and their constituents? Have they upheld the checks and balances as set forth in the Constitution? Have they done anything that you would label governing? I don't think they've even risen to the point of performance theater. They haven't risen to the most action I've seen from them was the hey goodbye that they gave to Al Green, which of course everybody forgets because God be it that we censure them for anything. That's the most I've seen from them. So you tell me, if you're in a situation where by your own admission, what you're hearing is hell and people are frightened, and you feel like it's going to continue, and you feel like our Constitution is being threatened by virtue of the people on the other side of the aisle not upholding their oaths of office, and you know the man who sits in the White House has no respect for the checks and balances or the other branches of government, what is the correct way to conduct yourself? What's the proper way to conduct yourself then? And this might be a cultural thing. I don't know. You guys have to let me know in the comments. This might be a cultural thing. We can disagree on a lot of things. We can disagree on what's for dinner. We can disagree on the proper tax brackets for the middle class. We can't disagree on my ability to exist. We can't disagree on future generations of my family being able to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We can't disagree on that if there's going to be a level of decorum.
So, understandably, lots of people look around, millions of them, I'd say, and say, where are the Democrats? What are they doing as the opposition party? The answer is not a ton. Now, part of the problem, I think, is that Democrats at the federal level just don't actually have that much power. They are minorities in both chambers of commerce. They don't run the White House, obviously, a minority on the Supreme Court. But it is also true that many elected Democrats are not exactly seizing the moment. A lot of them seem to have learned a very weird set of lessons from the defeat in 2024 and are, to my mind, kind of working backwards, trying to fight the last war instead of pivoting to the political reality of the here and now. We are here now, dealing with Donald Trump's assault on the Constitution and on the country. So it is ridiculous to think that this strategy of playing it safe is the solution to that assault. Not every act of defiance against Trump's anti-constitutional power grab needs to take into account what a swing voter in Wisconsin is going to think on Election Day in 2026 or 2028. That's a lifetime away. Leave that to political consultants and frontline House members a year from now. They got to think about that they should. A lot of this renewed frustration this week stems from the Democrats' response to Trump's joint address on Tuesday. About 4 minutes into the speech, Congressman Al Green of Texas challenged Trump's claim of a presidential mandate to gut Medicaid.
Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Find it in members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
Now, Congressman Green was ultimately forcibly removed from the chamber of the House Sergeant-at-Arms. And he was really the only Democrat who put up that kind of public fight. In response, one anonymous Democrat, who Axios described as a centrist, told the outlet what Green did was inappropriate, and he became the story, not the price of eggs. And I'm sorry, but to me, this is just completely misreading the moment we're in. This fight right now ultimately isn't really about the price of eggs. Maybe the politics of the price of eggs matter. They do. That's fine. That's right. And maybe what Congressman Green did was the right thing, and maybe it was the wrong thing. Either way, he's facing the consequences of his actions like an adult. Today, he was censured by his colleagues, including a handful of Democrats, for his protest, which, again, he broke the rules of the House. The House censured him. He stood in the well of the House to have the resolution read to him, surrounded by dozens of Democratic colleagues who sang "We shall overcome" in solidarity. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is, at least Green tried something. Now is the time for trying things. Everyone has an obligation as a citizen to defend this country's democracy, this shared project we all undertake together by any peaceful and democratic means necessary. Because Trump and the MAGA movement are organized right now, and their intentions could not be clearer. The world's richest man unilaterally controls the purse strings of the federal government. Donald Trump is referring to himself as America's king. That's not some, hysterical lib. He calls himself a king. 6 weeks in, they are flirting with prosecuting their political enemies. They have a clear vision of a presidential dictatorship. It's everyone's job to resist. And what we're seeing now is a weird attempt to rewrite the history of the first Trump administration, that the so-called resistance from back then was a failure. But it wasn't a failure. There are millions of people marching in the streets the day after Trump was inaugurated the first time. Democrats were able to organize and beat back the repeal of the Affordable Care Act not once but twice when Republicans had a larger House majority than they do now. That resistance helped flip the House to the Democrats in 2018. It fed into the largest popular uprising we've seen in a generation, at least in 2020, during an election year. And in that year, Democrats flipped the Senate, unseated an incumbent Republican president for the first time in nearly 30 years, and won the popular vote by 4.5 points. Somehow all of that has been rewritten as a failure, which in turn has convinced folks they just need to keep their heads down and hope they can run on egg prices in 2 years. Not only is that strategy morally wrong in my view, but more importantly for my purposes here, it's strategically bankrupt. Resistance was the right course of action in 2017. It's the right course of action now. And folks at the grassroots level understand it.
And thank you for that, Chris Hayes. I got my answer. It's not a cultural thing. No. It's just a courage thing. I would like to see more of it. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. We have reached a new subscriber milestone, and they're each significant in their own way.
You is kind, you is smart, you is important.
It's the community that's been built around this channel, whether it's you guys comments and going back and forth during the premieres, or it's whether it's you guys comments on the actual videos, or you guys sharing the content. Those are all things that have helped this channel reach the level that it is right now. And it is those things that will allow it to continue to succeed and thrive. So I just wanted to say thank you. Some of your comments and some of your emails, and by the way, if you want to email me, admin@reesewaters.com, if you want to make sure that I have to see something that you have to say, or if you have a suggestion for content, some of your comments and your emails have been so incredible. I actually will start responding to them, not just via the comments or via email, but here on the content itself because it warrants that. Of course, if you would like to join this channel, there's a link to membership in the description box to all of the videos. And of course, be sure to check out my second channel, Way of Waters, where I'll be dropping content on a regular basis as well, trying to find some level of peace. That's where you first got me messed up. She gave him to him, another man, like I'm not gonna get roasted. I ain't found it yet. I'm looking for it. That's what the channel is for.